What if you could plan out and generate your entire AI video, every scene, setting, and transition automatically? Most AI tools only generate one clip at a time. If you try to chain them together, the scenes won't look consistent, and storyboarding manually takes forever. So I built an AI agent inside of n8n that plans and generates short videos for you automatically. I integrated ChatGPT so that it can ask a few creative questions whilst providing feedback and suggestions as if it were a movie director. It builds your story scene by scene and saves everything to a Google Sheet that triggers Sora 2 to start generating and piecing each scene together. Sora 2 Storyboard is OpenAI's advanced AI video model for structured video generation. It supports multi-scene sequencing, visual consistency, and up to 25 seconds of controlled output. Connecting it to n8n like this makes it ridiculously easy to go from an idea to a complete consistent short video, all managed within a Google Sheet with statuses and video links, which could very easily be hooked up to other workflows that automatically upload these to social media or even email them to your team. Today, we'll be going over how to build this step by step, but first, let's take a look at these examples. This website is Kie API, and it'll allow us to connect to Sora 2 within our automations through their API. On the website though, there's a playground area where you can generate the videos manually with this UI. Here we've got our first example. It's a cat doing some ASMR, and I think it looks pretty good. So that's pretty amazing compared to even a year ago. No, it's not perfect or super ultra realistic, but these models are going to keep getting better and better. So either way, it's worth learning about. If you haven't noticed, there's sound in this video. Other video models don't always come with sound built in, but Sora 2 does. Over here on the side, there's the input. So each scene has its own description, and then you can specify how many seconds each one should be. There's also the options for how long the video should be. Like I said, it can go up to 25 seconds. Then there's aspect ratio, and you can choose the first frame of the video. This is nice if you have a photo of a character that you want in the video, and I'm excited because in the near future, I'll be releasing a video where we set up an entire automation for that type of thing. But our AI agent is going to be able to configure all these fields for us once we get it going. This is the sheet that our AI agent and automation interacts with. As you can see, I've already been generating a bunch of videos here, and in a second, I'm going to show you one of the example videos. So here in n8n, we'll be chatting with our AI agent, which under the hood is just an OpenAI ChatGPT with memory and very thorough system instructions. Basically, it's tasked to act as a movie director and brainstorms the movie scenes with us. We can get it to create pretty much any short video we want, and my favorite part about this is the fact that it'll give you creative suggestions for things like the setting, the mood, which characters it should focus on, stuff like that. For example, I asked, help me create a dinosaur video of a T-Rex chasing a smaller dinosaur. And it said, what kind of smaller dinosaur is being chased? Then it gave me some examples, like a raptor, this, and then number 2, what kind of setting do you imagine? Then it gave me some examples, dense jungle, rocky terrain. So this really helps to get your brain going and help you be more creative when generating your story. Once the agent gathers all the details from you and has each scene figured out, it'll give you a preview of the description for each scene and ask you to confirm. And then it'll update the Google Sheet with the data and set the row to the ready state. Then this other part of the automation will detect that the Google Sheet updated and sends all the rows in the ready state to Sora 2 via the Kie API. The row status gets updated to generating, and after a few minutes of the video being processed, it'll finish, and the Kie API will send a post request to our webhook here, triggering it, and then we check if the video generation was successful or failed, and update the sheet with that status along with the video link. So let's check out this dinosaur video that the automation generated. That's pretty freaking cool. I mean, where else can you find this, you know? I don't know if I'm a nerd or what, but I would generate dinosaur videos all day. All right, so I hope you have a good grasp on how this is all working, but if not, don't worry, I'll dive deeper into all of it. Before we start building though, I'm going to quickly go through the tools you'll need today. First and most important, you'll use n8n. n8n is a free to use automation platform with drag and drop nodes, and you don't need to know how to code. Second, we'll need Google Sheets, and we'll set up credentials to connect the sheet to our automation. Third, we'll need to use OpenAI ChatGPT for our AI agent. So we'll set up OpenAI credentials as well. And finally, we'll need Kie API credentials so that we can use their Sora 2 API for the video generation. And that's it. So let's get started. By the way, if you want to download this entire workflow and Google Sheet for free, I have a link in the description to my community where you'll find it. So we're going to start off today with our Storyboard Director Agent. So I created a brand new workflow in n8n and I named it Storyboard Director Agent Tutorial. So go ahead and add the first step here. And for the first step, we're going to add a chat trigger so that we can chat with our automation. This makes it so a little chat area appears down here and we can send messages. And now we'll connect this to an actual AI agent node. So search AI agent. And now our chats will be sent directly to this AI agent. So let's say, hey again, but there's an error because we actually have to connect a brain to this agent so that it knows what's going on. So click the plus icon under chat model. And today, like I said, we're going to use OpenAI, ChatGPT. So search for OpenAI chat model. And first of all, we need a credential to connect with. This makes it so our n8n is connected to our OpenAI account. So click create new credential and we need an API key. It's kind of like a password. So go to openai.com and log in or create an account. Go to profile. First of all, make sure you have your billing information and some credits in your account. And then go to API keys, click create new secret key, give it a name, select the project, and click create secret key. Once you do that, you'll get an API key that you can copy and store in a secure location like your notes, because once you close that modal, you won't be able to see it again. And paste it into this API key field and click save. And it should say connection tested successfully. And now that we've connected our OpenAI account, we can choose from any OpenAI GPT model that we want. In our case today, we're going to stick with the GPT 4.1 mini. And so now if we chat, we're actually going to get a response from our agent. So say, hey, hello, how can I help you today? Awesome. The next thing we want to do with this agent is to give it memory. Memory allows the agent to reference previous messages during our conversation. This is important for our case because our director agent needs to collect various pieces of information about our scenes, and so it needs to keep that train of thought. You might be thinking, I thought ChatGPT already came with built-in memory. Why do we need to set it up here? Well, the ChatGPT website does have built-in memory, but since we're in a different environment, we need to set it up manually, which is actually a good thing because we can have more fine-grained control over how much the agent remembers. So click the plus icon under memory and choose the simple memory. And here we have a context window length of 5. That means the agent is going to remember the previous 5 messages that were sent. And we actually might want to bump this up to something like 8 because our agent will need a lot of context in order to generate our story. Now, currently, our agent has no instructions, and so it has no idea what we need it to do. To add instructions, we're going to click into the agent and add a system message. You can see the default is just you are a helpful assistant, and so we're going to input our own detailed instructions here. So I'm going to open it up into a bigger view like so. So I just copy and pasted this set of instructions, and I'm going to walk you through it so you can learn how to set these up on your own. But if you just want to copy and paste, there's a link in the description to download this entire workflow for free, so you can grab it from there. Anyway, let's go through this. So I say you are an experienced cinematic director helping the user plan a short AI-generated storyboard for Sora 2 video. So we're clearly defining what the agent should be and how it should act. So we're telling it to act as a cinematic director. I tell it to ask natural, creative questions to gather everything you need: the overall story concept, setting, mood, characters, tone, and visual style. Encourage the user to keep the story concise, and since the video will be around 15 seconds long, ideally 1 to 3 scenes. As the conversation unfolds, guide them towards clear cinematic moments that translate well into short video scenes. Once you have enough information, summarize the storyboard back to the user in a clear outline format, and here we define that format. For each scene, it should give a description of the scene and how long it will be. And then we tell it to wait for the user's confirmation or edits before continuing. After the user confirms the storyboard is good, append a new row to the Google Sheet using the available Sheet tool. We're going to go ahead and add that Sheet tool in a second here. The new row should contain at least these fields: scenes, a JSON object, and this exact structure. So back in our Google Sheet, this is what this column is for. We have these shots with each scene and the duration. So our AI agent is generating that for us. Only write to the sheet after confirmation, never before. Do not generate any video APIs yourself. Your only responsibilities are 1. Conversing naturally to design the storyboard, confirming the structure with the user, and 3. Saving the confirmed storyboard to the Google Sheet in the required JSON format. Maintain a friendly creative director tone, collaborative, cinematic, and professional. So we're telling it exactly what it needs to do, what tools to use, and we're telling it to only do those things and nothing more. It's important to define the outline format the agent should use when confirming with the user and structuring the scenes. Doing this ensures the agent produces consistent and reliable outputs. The final step for our director agent is giving it access to our Google Sheet in order for it to update it with the generated story data. So click the plus icon here and search for Google Sheets tool. Now we're going to connect our credential. Now, if you don't already have a credential, you'll click create new one. And by going to the Google Cloud and setting up your credentials by creating a project in OAuth, you'll be able to get your client ID and client secret that you input here. Again, these are just like passwords used to connect your Google account to your n8n. I also have a full video on this that I'll link here. You could also click Docs and click Google Sheets credentials, and there's a full instruction on how to set it up here. And now that you have your account connected, let's choose our document from the list. So this list contains all the sheets in your Google Drive, and I named my sheet Storyboard, so I'll choose it from this list and then choose the tab. And there we go. We've connected our Google Sheet to our n8n agent successfully. The next thing to do is choosing the operation. Right now it's set to get rows, which if this tool was used, all it would do is collect all the rows from our Google Sheet. But what we want it to do is actually append or update a new row to that Google Sheet. So let's choose the append row option. Since we're appending a new row, we need to define what the value should be for each one of these columns. To do that, we're going to scroll down and map each column manually. Here we get a list of all the columns. So in this step, we want to set the ID, the scenes, and the status. We're going to let the AI agent decide what this ID should be. So to do that, you'll click the let the model define this parameter. Now the agent will come up with that ID for us. And then for scenes, earlier we instructed the agent to come up with the scenes. So again, we're going to click the let the model define this parameter. And then as for the status, we're going to set this ourselves. We'll say ready. And ready is one of the options in the status field here. It basically is letting the next automation know that this row is ready for processing. Our agent has everything it needs to direct and manage our video within the Google Sheet, so let's give it a test run. We'll reset the chat and ask, hey, I want to make a movie about dinosaurs. Let's see. So the agent is thinking right now, and it says, fantastic, dinosaurs are such an exciting subject. Since we're working on a short AI-generated video, around 15 seconds, I'll narrow down the story a bit. So it knows that we only have 15 seconds for this video. And then it asked me a bunch of questions about the story. What the main idea or moment you want to capture about dinosaurs. So let's answer that one. I want a T-Rex to be getting chased by a flying dinosaur. All right, we're gonna say that because I want it to give me some options for flying dinosaurs. I don't know any of the names, so hopefully it does. What type of flying dinosaur do you want? Imagine chasing the T-Rex. Then it gives us some examples. Perfect. So I'll copy this one and I'll number it. There we go. And number 2, how intense do you want the chase? So I'll say dramatic. And then 3, what kind of environment are they in? Dense jungle, open plains. I'll say start off in the plains, then go into the jungle. And 4, do you want the video to start with the chase already underway or show the dinosaur noticing the threat first? The first scene will be the dinosaur or the T-Rex noticing the threat. And 5, any particular visual style or tone, realistic, stylized animation. Let's say realistic. Let's see what this thing can do. It's thinking. And here it's giving us our scenes. Let's see, the T-Rex is standing out alert in the open plain. It suddenly looks up with a sharp, tense expression, sensing the pterodactyl approaching from the sky. The background is vast and sunlit with tall grass waving in the breeze. Duration 5 seconds. So it gives us the description for each and the duration. You can go ahead and pause and read these if you want. I think I'm happy with it, so let's say yes. And it gives us the structured scenes to save to our Google Sheet, and we'll say yes again. It asked us to share the Google Sheet ID, and I think what it's referring to is this ID for the row that we asked it to define. So we're going to go into the instructions here in the agent. This is a great example of having to debug your agents while testing. So let's go down to the new row should contain at least 3 fields, or these fields. We define the scenes, and then we're going to put another bullet point here for the ID. So we'll say ID, a unique identifier for the row, generate this yourself, or just say generate this. All right, then let's try again. Say generate it yourself. And there it's using the append row and sheets tool. Perfect. All set. Your thrilling 15-second dinosaur chase storyboard is saved with the ID dinochase001. Cool. So let's check the sheet. And there it is in the ready state. Now our video is ready to be processed, so it's time to set up our video generation automation. We're just going to do this within the same workflow as our agent. So scroll down on the canvas. We want the automation to be triggered anytime our Google Sheet is updated. So we'll add another trigger node and search for Google Sheets and choose the on row added or updated. Now we'll connect our same Google Sheets credential. You might have to create another one here with the same client ID and client secret. And then the poll times will leave to every minute. So every minute, this node is going to check if our Google Sheet has been updated. And then from document, let's choose the same document, obviously, storyboard, the same tab, and trigger on row added or updated, include an output. We want to include the new version, not the old version or both versions. So if we execute this step, we're going to get all the rows in our Google Sheet. And as you can see, we get the ID, the scenes, the status. So what we're going to do, we'll move this down here first of all, and then add another node to filter those rows. We should only include the rows that have the status of ready, right? We don't want to process rows that are successful or ones that are already generating. So drag in the status to the value 1, and then we're checking if it's equal to value 2, which will be ready. So now if we execute this, we're going to get just one row because only one of the rows in our sheet is ready and the rest are going to be discarded. Now we want to take that row that's ready and send it to the Kie API so that our Sora 2 video can be generated. There is no Kie API node in n8n, so in order to connect, we'll need to set up an HTTP request to communicate with that API. So click the plus icon here and search for HTTP, and there we go. Now, we could configure this ourselves, but we can also import a curl command from the Kie API website, and that's going to configure the node for us. So let's go find that. So here on the Kie API website, I found the Sora 2 Pro storyboard page, and I'm going to click on the API tab and scroll all the way down to the request example. And here is the curl command that we can copy and paste here and click import. Now it's configured for us. So the method is post. It uses the Kie API URL. The authentication is set to none currently, and we send headers. So this is where we're doing the authorization. We're sending a bearer key, and this is what we have to update along with a couple things in the JSON body. So first of all, let's handle this bearer token. We're going to go to Kie API and click on API keys, and you'll create a new API key, or you'll already have one generated for you. By the way, make sure you have some billing information in and buy a couple credits. I think Kie API also has free credits when you join, so you can use those as well. So copy your API key and paste it right here. This method will work, but it's not the best method because every time we create a new HTTP request to communicate with Kie API, we're going to have to copy and paste this bearer token. So to avoid that, let's actually create a new authentication and select the bearer auth. And then you can add a new credential. And you'll just go ahead and copy this bearer with the token and paste it into this field, then click save. Give it a name like Kie API and click save, and then you'll be good to go. So anytime you create a new HTTP request for Kie API, you can just select this bearer auth instead of having to input these headers. So let's deselect the headers and move on to the body section. As for the body content type, leave that as JSON. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and it's basically a standardized way of sending data over the internet. So here is our JSON object with all the configuration for our post request to the Kie API for Sora 2 storyboard, right? We have the model defined here, Sora 2 Pro storyboard. Then we have the input. And here we define the n frames, which stands for how many seconds it should be. We have the image URLs that we can actually remove since we're not doing that in this video. Then the aspect ratio is landscape. You could set that to portrait if you wanted it in portrait mode, but landscape is like this. And then shots, we're grabbing the shots from our Google Sheet. So we're actually going to change this to an expression and then open it up into the big view. And we're going to remove this hard-coded value and then make it dynamic by dragging in the data from our row. So here's the filter node output, and we have our row here with the ID, the scenes, everything else. So we're going to drag in the scenes like so. And currently it's structured with these shots in the object, but we already have shots here. So basically we want to remove that and just have this list of the shots. So to do that, we're going to do json.parse. And now we can do .shots. And then we're going to go back to the beginning and do json.stringify and wrap it with braces. And there we go. Now we just have the list with our scenes assigned to the shots for the input configuration. By the way, if you're ever interested in what input needs to go into these configuration objects, usually the API you're using will have docs that go into detail about each field, like what kind of data type needs to be inputted, how many scenes you're allowed to upload, or just how the data is structured. For example, on Kie API, you'll find all of that under the input object parameters section. Also, if you wanted to use a different AI generation model from Kie API, they have a bunch to choose from. You can easily switch it out by updating this part here and making sure the input configuration is correct for that specific model. So basically, we're gonna get all the rows that are ready to be generated and then send them to the Sora 2 to be generated. So we can test this out now. Let's execute the workflow. All right, looks like it sent. Oh, looks like the current credits are insufficient. Oh, gotta re-up my money on Kie API. Let's see. And there we go, 1,000 credits. While we're on the subject, these 15-second videos are going to cost us 135 credits each, so that translates to 67 cents. Anyway, let's try this out again. Let's see. Looks like it was successful and we got our task ID and a record ID. So now we want to save this task ID to our Google Sheet so we can use it in the next part of the automation. So add another node here for the Google Sheets, search Google Sheet, and then select update row and sheet. Select your same credential and choose the same sheet storyboard. And then down here, we're going to map the column manually like we did before in the AI agent. Search for the status. We want to change this to generating ... Since the video is generating in Sora or Kie API, the status is going to be generating in our Google Sheet. You can see that's one of the options here. And then we're going to drag in the task ID to this column here. And also for the start of that field, that shows us in the sheet when when the video starts processing. So let's make this a timestamp of right now. So to do a timestamp of the current time right now, you're going to change this to expression and then do curly brackets, $now. And that's going to give us the current date time like so. So let's execute this step. Column to match on parameter is required. So we actually have to match on a certain column. Since we're updating a row, the node needs to know which row to update by finding it first. So to find it, it's asking us to give it a column to match on. So we'll do ID and then drag in our ID from the filter like so. Now we'll execute and look at our sheet. There we go. It's now generating. Cool. If we go to Sora 2, we'll also see it generating in here, logs, and we see this process is running. Like I said, it's going to cost 135 credits. Now this process is probably going to take about 10 minutes. And once it's done, we need to set the row status to success and input the video link. What we could do is set up a polling method, which is what I did in the last video about video generation. This polling method would be to set up a loop that would continuously check if the video is done every certain amount of seconds. But there's a better way to check if the video is done with webhooks. Now, if you're hosting n8n locally, then you'll want to do the polling method because webhooks aren't going to work. But if your n8n is hosted in the cloud, then I recommend doing it this way. So let's set up that webhook method here. We're going to add in a webhook node, webhook trigger node, and let's move it on down here. Now this URL up top is the webhook URL. Real quick, I'm going to show you how this works by copying this URL and then clicking listen for test event. Now, if I paste this link into the browser, we see the workflow has started message, right? So the workflow executed because we went to this URL that the webhook gave us. If I were to go to this again, it would say the request webhook is not registered, click the execute workflow button. So that means every time we want to test this webhook out, we're gonna have to click listen for test event. That's because we're not using the production URL. Now, if we use the production URL, we'll have to mark the workflow as active. And that's gonna make it so anytime we go to this URL, the workflow is gonna execute no matter how many times you go to it because it's active. And anything that this workflow right here returns is going to show up on this web page right here. So for example, let's add an edit fields node and just return a message success. And we're going to set this to when the last node finishes. Right now it's executing immediately and it's just outputting nothing. But if we set it to respond when the last node finishes, it's going to wait till this one goes off and then send the output from this one. So let's refresh the page and now we got message success. So this is very powerful because you can give this production URL to any external application, and that external application is going to be able to call your n8n workflow and get data from it. In our case today, we're going to send the webhook URL to our Kie API with this HTTP request. You can see here there's a callback URL that we can input. I left it blank earlier, but let's actually put our production URL like so. And so now when we send our videos for processing, Kie API has our callback URL. So it's going to run, it's going to generate the video, and once it's finished, it's going to actually call that callback URL you gave it. By call, I mean it's going to send a request, and that request is going to trigger this webhook. And not only will it trigger it, but it'll send us the video link URL and the status of the video. So the status could be success or it could be failed. So for our next node, we're going to check that status. So we'll click the plus icon and search for if. And this if node allows us to do basic conditional branching. So if it's true, it's going to go this way. And if it's false, it'll go this way. So we want to check if the value 1 is equal to success. To get the value 1, we're going to have to pull in the status from our input here from the webhook. Now, in order to get that input view, we're going to have to run the webhook, which I've already done previously. So let me show you what that input looks like. Basically, we have a body with data, and we get our result JSON with the result URLs for the video and the state with the success message or failed message, right? So we're going to drag in the state like so. Here is what the expression looks like, json.body.data.state. So let's copy this and put it into our own workflow. And then we're going to check if it's equal to success. Now, when we branch to true, we're going to mark the sheet to success and input that video link to our sheet. We'll search for Google Sheets and do an update row and sheet node, and choose your document. Again, we're going to map each column here. As for the column to match on, this is why we wanted to add the task ID earlier, because we don't actually have the ID of the row from this webhook, right? It's only giving us the task ID and the statuses. So we're going to choose task ID to match on, and then we need to go back to our other workflow to see what the input is going to be shaped as. So json.body.task.id. So let's copy this and put it into here. And then let's see what else we have to copy. So the video link, it's going to be captured like this. So copy that and put it here. There we go. Turn this to an expression as well. Both of these two expressions. Awesome. Then let's add a false branch. So this is going to also update our sheet. Search for Google Sheets, then update row and sheet, add your document. And then for the mapping column mode, we're going to grab the task ID mapping again. Change this to task ID and paste that here as an expression, and then set the status to failed. Completed that, make this an expression, and do the same thing we did earlier for the timestamp. Do $now, and then repeat that in the success branch. Now, and set the status to success. So this portion of the workflow should be good to go. Let's just go to Kie API and check the docs real quick regarding this callback URL. So it says callback URL for task completion notifications. If provided, the system will send a post request to this URL. That means we have to go into our workflow, into the webhook node, and change this HTTP method to post so that this webhook will watch for post requests to this URL instead of get requests or anything else. Okay, and then save the workflow. And I think we're ready to give everything a test run. But first, our video is probably done generating now. It didn't update our Google Sheet because the webhook wasn't hooked up initially. So we're gonna have to update this manually by marking this a success and then going into Kie API and just copying this result URL, pasting it here, and there we go. It's structured weird. Okay, there's our link. Let's take a look. That's pretty cool. It did all of our scenes, started off in the plains with the T-Rex noticing the bird, and then it started running, and now it's in the jungle for the final scene. It looks realistic. It's got the sound effects with the pterodactyl screeching. Pretty cool. I've decided to do 3 different videos for the demo today, so I'm going to chat with the agent and get those going. If you do the math, that's about $2 worth of videos right there, and I'm super excited because I got some pretty good video ideas. So I think I'm gonna record the entire first one when I'm chatting with the agent, then I'll put the last 2 on like a speed run kind of thing, and then I'll show you each one of these steps executing. Okay, so for this first one, I want to do like a stormy night with waves crashing against the cliffs, and then there's a lighthouse shining out, and you see a mysterious object in the ocean. Let's just copy and paste that. Okay, great start for a 15-second video. It's a fantastic moody setup. It asks me, what kind of story or emotion do you want to convey? Suspense, hope, mystery. So I'll say mystery. And then 2, who or what is the mystery or mysterious shape? A ship, a creature, a person. Let's go with a creature. And 3, any particular style you want, realistic, stylized, animated, or something else. Realistic. 4, are there any key visual details or colors you'd like to emphasize in the storm? No. Then 5, would you prefer a single continuous shot or a few quick cuts between scenes? Probably 3 scenes with different angles. Try that out. Wanted to mention real quick, when we did number 2, who or what is the mysterious shape, it gave me some options here, and I just love how it does that because it really sparks my creativity and makes it so these stories turn out a lot better. Because when I was first thinking about this story, I was thinking there could only be a ship. I didn't even think about a creature, but that makes a lot of sense. So we're gonna go with that. Let's send that off. Probably gonna ask a couple more questions here or give us the scenes. All right, yeah, that's good. It gives us all the scenes. Wide shot capturing the stormy ocean, crashing waves, and the lighthouse beam cutting through the fog, setting the eerie atmosphere. It's far and shadowy in the distance. Okay, let's just say yes. You guys can pause and read that if you want. It's gonna give us the outline here. We'll say yes again. Gives us the duration, 7, 5, and 3. It used the append row and sheets. Perfect. That was added to the sheet. It's in the ready state. So now this Google Sheets trigger is going to trigger. We're not going to see it though because when you're in the active state of your workflow, you're not going to get to see like the cool animations that happen in the canvas here. To see the executions, you'll need to go to the executions tab. And if we look at the timestamp, so this one is us messaging the agent. And then if we click the latest one, it's still us messaging the agent. So any second here, we'll see a new execution with our Google Sheets trigger. There it goes. All right, our Google Sheets trigger went off, and let's just click into the request. We get a success. So let's go to our sheet. It's generating, perfect. So now we're gonna wait a certain amount of time and our webhook should go off and we'll see another execution here for that. So it's been a few minutes and that actually failed. Sometimes this happens with Kie API. They'll give me a failure for no reason at all. It just says internal error, please try again. So I'm just gonna run this again. That's why we set up the error handling. I'm glad we did that down here because that webhook actually did go off if we look at the executions. But instead of going the success branch, it went the other way. Wait, yeah, there it goes. It goes that way. This one went off again because our Google Sheets trigger went off since the sheet was updated with this failed status. And that's why we have this filter here because it discarded that item due to it not being in the ready state. Anyway, so here I just updated this manually with a different ID, 002, and I just copy and pasted these columns and set it to the ready state. So let's see if this fails again. It shouldn't, it should be successful, and I'll catch you when it's done. It it just updated to generating. Guys, I'm sorry. I took a sneak peek at this one. It's actually insane. 1 second though. Let's look at the execution that happened. Um, so here's the new ones. The webhook went off, and then it shows to update the sheet in row with our success message and our video link. Awesome. So let's check out this video. I think it's freaking awesome. Wow. The eerie mist and then that huge monster. And then you have all the different scenes, and then the final one is like kind of like a person inside the lighthouse looking out of it. Then you have the dramatic music with the croaking sounds. That's wild. Okay, so we're gonna test 2 more ideas. I'm gonna do them at the same time so we can test if the workflow will work with 2 at a time. Let's go to our agent editor. Now we'll open up the chat and we'll say, okay, let's generate a new one. There should be a flying drone chase through neon skyscrapers at night, reflections on wet pavement. Okay, we confirmed, and it's appending the row in the sheet. The storyboard has been saved. Let's start this other one. A city street, mid-explosion, everything frozen in mid-air while the camera smoothly pans through the scene. Send that off. Confirm. All right. It's appending the row. Let's check the sheet. We got 1 generating and 1 in the ready state. That will turn the generating very shortly. So we're probably gonna wait about 10-15 minutes, and I'll get back to you when these guys are done. Okay, those took a bit of time. Let's check them out. This first one is the drone. Whole lot of detail, but yeah, it lived up to the story that the director made for us, and I thought it was pretty good. Let's see the second one here. Okay. So that one was mainly to test out like the physics of slow motion in these videos and how it handles it, and I think it did a pretty good job. We got this motorcycle flying through the air, some fruits, glass shattering over here, humans, fire even, and you can see it's like slow motion, there's smoke. Again, that one matched the story the director generated very well. I have a few more ideas for videos that I really want to test out, so I might as well do it on camera, but I'm just going to show you guys the final result once they're done, so I'll see you in a second. While these are generating, I wanted to quickly mention my community. There's a link in the description that you can click to join for absolutely free, and you'll be able to download this workflow along with all the other ones I make videos about. The community is growing quickly, and it's a great place to network with like-minded people who are also interested in AI automation. So to download the template, you'll come in here and find the video you're looking for under the YouTube Assets tab. You'll click in and download the JSON file to your computer. Then back in n8n, you'll be able to click these dots up here and click import from file and select that JSON file, and you'll have the template ready to go. I'm also going to upload this storyboard Google Sheet so you don't have to create it yourself. The videos are all finished. Let's check these out real quick. This first one is about a woman in a cabin, and she looks out the window and sees her dog, and there's a bear approaching, and she comes out with an axe and scares it away. So let's look at the file.
Hey, back off! Go on, get! You're okay now. I've got you. Good boy.
So it looks super realistic, and the color grading in these scenes is amazing, but it doesn't make much sense, some of these scenes. So AI is not going to be perfect. And honestly, when you generate these videos, it is kind of like a roll the dice if it's going to be any good. You know, if I really wanted to, I could get my agent to refine the prompts, like explicitly say that the bear should go the other direction and not inside of the house like it is. But anyway, let's go on to the next video. This next one is like a Lord of the Rings style. There's an army marching onto a castle. That's pretty much all I gave the director to work off of. So let's see the video. Super realistic. That's cool. I told it the storm is rolling in, so I got that shot at the end, and I like how the drums are going. Pretty cool. All right, last but not least, we got close-ups of rugged cowboy hands loading guns and tightening boots. Then medium shot of the group of cowboys exchanging serious looks and mentally preparing for what's ahead. And then wide shot of the cowboys mounting horses and riding off into a dramatic sunlit desert landscape. Let's check it out.
Everyone ready? Ready as we'll ever be. Then let's ride.
Pretty cool. I told it to also have that like a stylized effect instead of being super realistic. So it kind of looks like a video game. And I think all of these videos, like the audio is perfect for all of them, but sometimes some of the scenes are messed up and the physics don't make sense. Overall though, Storyboard is awesome. And by using this automation, you'll be able to come up with a vast amount of videos just by chatting with an agent that's also going to help you direct and make the videos more creative. If you guys end up generating some cool videos, I would love if you posted them in the community for us to see. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I'll see you in the next one.